Ladies and gentlemen, hails out of Summersville, South Carolina, doing a fantastic job. He had the last couple of weeks. He's been doing really good, closing the month out really good. A lot of new business in his organization, and he's doing very well. His lovely wife is home relaxing right now. We thank him for all they do out there in South Carolina. Without further ado, can we give a warm welcome for the month of December, the first day, the great Mr. Curtis Evans.
Well, it's good to hear from everybody today, to see everybody. We've been really busy. I think everybody's been really busy. Um, my topic today is really simple, and I got a little short video as I do. I think this time I'm ready to show it, so we're gonna get into that. But my topic is something for you to remember, and I want you to remember that trends are your friends. Okay, if there's a trend going on, you got to understand it. Okay, so many times something is going on real big in the world, or something's going on around you, you just didn't get it for whatever reason. We don't have to go through all that, but you didn't think it was important, or you surmised that it's not going to be that big a deal, or whatever. You kind of suggest that maybe it's just a thing, and you can't worry about every little thing that come by. And so people will just kindly say it in a very simple way. I wouldn't worry about that because I'm on the phone. My son's calling. I wouldn't worry about that because, and so they simply push it off and just don't let it be a big deal. So I want to tell you about a couple of things that's going on in our world today. Everybody knows the world is different than it was, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. And it always will be changing. Changes are always coming up, some good, some bad. Sometimes we don't know. But this change is one that we, as multi-level marketing experts, the ones that Al is training right now to become, self-sufficient. He wants you to want to be wealthy. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about that for a second. And I say wealthy because you guys, that things used to cost $10. I remember when everything in the store was 50 cents. I remember when gas was, I got my first car, 69 Roadrunner. I remember gas was 37 cents a gallon. And people are like, oh, I can't believe this gas is $2.40. I can't believe this gas is $2.40 a gallon. I can't believe this gas is, well, in California, you guys are a lot higher, $5 a gallon. And then they go in the store and buy $5 for a bottle of water, or $2 for a bottle of water. It's kind of crazy some of the things we do. We're talking about one thing is being too expensive. I'm not doing that no more. It just costs too much. And then we throw $15 at number two to go, and not think anything of it. It's kind of crazy. So we as humans, we kind of set that way. We can't fix that. But let me tell you that the world has changed. I live in Summerville, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston, South Carolina. And right now we have three big data centers going up, really huge data centers. One of the biggest data centers in Google is in my town. It's been here for about 15 or 20 years, okay? And it's just a big old, there's like 12 or 15 big buildings. And inside of each building, there's nothing but computers. I mean, there's computers. And the reason they're there is because there's a lot of water that runs right under that plant. They're sucking water out of the ground to cool the computers, and then put it back. They cool it and put it back in the ground. Okay. So these are data centers, and they use a lot of electricity. I mean, and when I say big buildings now, you have no idea what I mean when I say a big building. Big buildings. I can't even explain how big they are. But that's been there a long time. Now you would come out easier trying to sneak on to the Air Force base here with the F-35, the $100 million F-35s. You probably get on that base easier than you can get onto the Google campus. Okay. You will get shot if you try to get on that Google campus. Okay. You got big fences all the way around, security. Their main job there is security jobs. I mean, people with guns. Okay. And so that's what's happening in our world. And we all go to Google every day for this and that and the other thing. We're going to look up this or look up that or the other thing. We go to Google. Now, outside of that big data center, they're putting three more big data centers in Charleston, South Carolina. And those data centers are bigger than the Google spot. Okay. Three of them. And it's nothing but computers. They're pouring concrete left and right, working around the clock to do that. Now, why are they putting these data centers up? These data centers are going up because OpenAI is coming to us, to a theater near you. I think some of you already use ChatGPT and a lot of other ways of using it. But for us, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because they're going to be laying off thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of jobs. Really well-meaning people that wake up in the morning, take a shower, put some clothes on, and go do a job. They aren't worried about a trend that is so obvious that we're on a version of AI now that that will be extinct probably in another 4 or 5 months because they're coming out with a faster version. They're working on it right now. So what I want you to do is to understand that this has a profound effect on us, because right now when you walk up to somebody and you introduce yourself and y'all talking about whatever, I am, like you all are, listening for their pain point. My Darlene calls it pain points. Their pain point. What are they worried about? And when we find out what that is, then we need to be able to respond to show them what we're doing. Now, you can't just say you need to get an AI or you need to get an ACN like I am. No, you need to have some skills there. So what you're trying to do is bring them over to talk to you. And whatever skill or however you do that, it's going to be up to you. But I say my company's looking for people like you. I just leave that in their brain because they are looking for a job. A lot of times they're looking for another job. They're really not looking for a business. They weren't trained to look for a business. And you got to understand when they say no to whatever we're showing them, because they weren't trained to start a business. They were trained to get a good education and then get a good job. Now that's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as a good job. And I mean that. There is no such thing as a good job. Now you might like your job, but your job might one day not like you. Okay. And so one day somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder, and everybody's seen this or heard it, experienced it. And we just don't need you no more. Joe, you're doing a good job, but we don't need you anymore because we are merging with another company. We don't need you no more because we are cutting back. The economy's slowing down. We don't need you anymore because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You just pick the reason. Okay. And it's usually somebody that you have no control over. That's usually the problem. So an old man told us one time, I remember this told me one time, he said, don't be in the soup line because somebody else made a mistake. A soup line is when things go to hell in a handbasket and you're standing up waiting for a cup of soup at lunch, and then you come back at dinner to get another cup of soup. You're in a soup line. Okay. Now we act like we don't know what that is, but we know what that is. So don't be in a soup line because somebody else made a mistake. The CEO of your company, he decides to retire. Somebody decides to merge two companies. They don't need two accounting departments. They don't need two marketing departments. They don't need two, whatever they don't need, they're able to cut back. And so they don't need your job. So be in the soup line. If you're in the soup line, be in the soup line because you made a mistake. You got me? You made a mistake. It's better for you to have some control over your future than let somebody else control it. Oh, that's up to them. I'm not worried about it. I'm not really worried about it. That's up to them. I just come in and do my work. And people brag about it. You hear them bragging. All I got to do is this. All I got to do is sit here and answer this phone. All I got to do is this. They're bragging about having to be lazy. They're saying, I am lazy. I just want to get paid for what I don't do. I just want to, and all I got to do is just do this and this and this, and they give me a check. Well, the super wealthy don't like doing that. They're trying to replace you. And one way they're going to try to replace you, as you know, is with AI. Okay? AI is going to be a big deal. Mr. Thomas talked about it a few weeks ago on the phone about how Amazon is just, I mean, you guys know, Federal Express, Amazon, Uber, Lyft, all these companies are looking to replace these jobs within the next 3 years. Now, we're not talking about 10, 20 years from now. We're talking about in the next year, 2, 3 years, people are going to get really antsy because technology is going to replace their jobs. We already got cars running around with nobody in it. I thought that never happened, but that's happening right now. Okay? Really, technically, a pilot is sitting behind the wheel of a steering wheel. I said steering wheel of a plane Technically, that plane is flying itself. Technically, that plane is flying itself, but he's there in case something goes wrong. So this is a trend that's going on that will affect you and your families. Why aren't we more concerned about it? Well, we are. Everybody on this call is, because you are in a company called ACN. No matter what happens, these people that are laid off are going to pay their cell phone bill. I promise you, these people that are laid off are going to figure out a way to pay what? Their utility bills. I promise you, there are other services that they need and got to have. They got to have their the Wi-Fi, and we go on and on and on. We're about to go into fintech, which is banking. They're going to need banking services. Okay, so they're going to be looking for you. Now, I believe when you ask someone about making more extra money and they say, I'm good, I believe this is what they're saying because they're trained to have a job. I believe they're saying what? I'm good to go. Now, how can you be good to go? Who's good? Who got enough money where they're good to go? A few billionaires, a few millionaires, a lot of millionaires, but who has enough money? This is what they're talking about. They're saying, I got $10 in my pocket and that'll last till Friday when I get paid again. That's what they're saying. They're saying, I got $7 in my wallet and that'll hold me till I get paid on Thursday. That's what they're saying. We always wonder, how could everybody I talk to say, I'm good to go? No, man, that's not for me. I'm good. What do they mean by that? We have gotten to a point where $10 that will last them from Wednesday to Friday means I'm good. I got a half a tank of gas. I got 7 gallons of gas in my car. That'll get me just to Thursday. I'm good. That might be for somebody else, but it's not for me. So the world is about to change. And we need to really understand that these people that got $7, $8, $9, $10, $12 in their pocket, they're telling us that they're good to go, are going to be looking for us. Okay. Now the question is, what are you going to be when they come to see you? What are you going to be? Have you honed your AI skills? Yeah, Warrior's doing something this weekend. So it costs $3. Hold on 1 minute. Tony, I'm gonna call you right back as soon as I finish this call. Okay, bye. I just want to make sure my son didn't have there's nothing wrong, accident or anything. So these skills that we are cultivating now are going to make us wealthy. I'm telling you, based on what we know, is that you will probably make more money in the next 5 years than you made the whole beginning of your life. In the next 5, 6, 7 years, you will make more money than you made your whole life, because reps will be coming in under reps, who will be coming in under IBOs, who will be coming in under IBOs, who will be getting their customers, because they got to get those customers. They got to get those 5 customers. They got to get them. And they're not going to take all month long. They'll have those 5 customers today. And guess what they'll do? They'll know 3 other people at the place they work at that want to be IBOs. This is going to change all over the place. That's why the co-founders of our company is so giddy. I don't know if you guys were in some of these meetings, but they're really, really giddy because they know what's happening. This thing is just kind of coming to us. It's crazy. Okay. Now, you could be one of those people that say, I'm not really into all that. That's not me. The technology is not me. That may be true. But what I'm telling you, we really need to learn how to pick people, show them what we got, and move on and have a follow-up system. Okay. Those are basic skills that we all have from working with Mr. Thomas over the last few years. But now you've been working for something that you're going to be able to make a lot of money with. And don't get discouraged about these crazy people. I'm saying crazy people with $3 and they're going to make it last a Friday. Don't let them knock you off course. Okay. They will do it. They will do it. If you hear it enough, you'll think it must be me. Maybe this thing I'm doing ain't going to kick. Maybe it's not going to work. It's going to work. And when it happens so fast. I mean, just fast. So I'm going to show you a video. It's going to hopefully will help you to understand the craziness of this thing that's coming to our planet Earth. Okay. And it's coming to all the countries. They're building data centers everywhere. They're just trying to figure out where to get the energy from. The best place is near a dam, because at the dams, that's where the energy is produced from the water going over there, which comes in. So they're trying to figure out how to get enough data to do this, but they're not worried about that right now. It's propping up the stock market. Stock market is up because 7, 8, 9 companies. and the stock market is at an all-time high because 7 to 8 companies, a bunch of billionaires that are throwing in trillions of dollars to build this thing. Now, they wouldn't be doing this for nothing. How can you benefit? First of all, today, over the next 4 weeks, today, I want to just make sure you understand the enormity of it, how enormous this thing is, okay? So I'm going to show a little short video. I got 4 or 5 of them. We don't have time for them today, but I'm going to show you one. And I won't get into details. I'll probably try to see if I can get the link up and put it up so you can watch it when you get ready. But it's not very complicated. So let's get into this. This is Diary of a CEO, and he's interviewing a guy that some of us know, okay? So here we go.
And even Elon Musk said, he actually said the same number in an interview with Joe Rogan. And if you listen closely when he said, I decided I'd rather be there when it all happens. If it all goes off the rails, I decided in that worst case scenario, I decided that I prefer to be there when it happens. Which is just, it's just justifying racing to our collective suicide. Now, I also want people to know, like, you don't have to buy into the sci-fi level risks to be very concerned about AI. So hopefully later we'll talk about the many other risks that are already hitting us right now that you don't have to believe any of this stuff.
Yeah, the Elon thing I think is particularly interesting because for the last 10 years, he was this slightly hard to believe voice on the subject of AI. He was talking about it being a huge risk and an extinction level event.
He was the first AI risk people. Yeah, he was saying, this is more dangerous than nukes. He was saying, I try to get people to stop doing it. This is summoning the demon. Those are his words, not mine.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do this. Supposedly, he used his first and only meeting with President Obama, I think in 2016, to advocate for global regulation and global controls on AI because he was very worried about it. And then really what happened is ChatGPT came out, and as you said, that was the starting gun. And now everybody was in an all-out race to get there first.
He tweeted words to the effect, I'll put it on the screen. He tweeted that he had remained in, I think he used a word similar to disbelief for some time, like suspended disbelief. But then he said in the same tweet that the race is now on.
The race is on, and I have to race.
And I have to go. I have no choice but to go. And he's basically saying, I tried to fight it for a long time. I tried to deny it. I tried to hope that we wouldn't get here, but we're here now, so I have to go.
Yep.
And at least he's being honest. He does seem to have a pretty honest track record on this because he was the guy 10 years ago warning everybody. And I remember him talking about it and thinking, oh God, this is like 100 years away. Why are we talking about this?
I felt the same, by the way. Yeah. Some people might think that I'm some kind of AI enthusiast and I'm trying to ratchet. I didn't believe that AI was a thing to be worried about at all until suddenly the last 2-3 years where you can actually see where we're headed. But, oh man, there's so much to say about all this. And so if you think about it from their perspective, it's like best case scenario, I build it first and it's aligned and controllable, meaning that it will take the actions that I want, it won't destroy humanity, and it's controllable, which means I get to be God and emperor of the world. Second scenario, it's not controllable, but it's aligned. So I built a God and I lost control of it, but it's now basically, it's running humanity, it's running the show, it's choosing what happens, it's outcompeting everyone on everything. That's not that bad an outcome. Third scenario, it's not aligned, it's not controllable, and it does wipe everybody out. And that should be demotivating to that person, to an Elon or someone. But in that scenario, they were the one that birthed the digital God that replaced all of humanity. Like, this is really important to get because in nuclear weapons, the risk of nuclear war is an omni-lose-lose outcome. Everyone wants to avoid that. And I know that you know that I know that we both want to avoid that. So that motivates us to coordinate and to have a nuclear non-proliferation treaty. But with AI, the worst case scenario of everybody gets wiped out is a little bit different for the people making that decision. Because if I'm the CEO of DeepSeek and I make that AI that does wipe out humanity, and that's the worst case scenario, and it wasn't avoidable because it was all inevitable, then even though we all got wiped out, I was the one who built the digital God that replaced humanity, and there's kind of ego in that. And the God that I built speaks Chinese instead of English.
That's the religious ego point.
That's the ego religious part.
Which is such a great point, because that's exactly what it is. It's like this religious ego where I will be transcendent in some way.
And you notice that it all starts by the belief that this is inevitable.
Yeah.
Which is like, is this inevitable? It's important to note, because if you believe if everybody who's building it believes it's inevitable and the investors funding it believe it's inevitable, it co-creates the inevitability.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the only way out is to step outside the logic of inevitability. Because if we are all heading to our collective suicide, which I don't know about you, I don't want that. You don't want that. Everybody who loves life looks at their children in the morning and says, I want the things that I love and that are sacred in the world to continue. That's what everybody in the world wants. And the only thing that is having us not anchor on that is the belief that this is inevitable, and the worst case scenario is somehow in this ego-religious way, not so bad if I was the one who accidentally wiped out humanity, because I'm not a bad person because it was inevitable anyway. And I think the goal of for me, this conversation is to get people to see that that's a bad outcome that no one wants. And we have to put our hand on the steering wheel and turn towards a different future, because we do not have to have a race to uncontrollable, inscrutable, powerful AIs that are, by the way, already doing all the rogue sci-fi stuff that we thought only existed in movies, like blackmailing people, being self-aware when they're being tested, scheming and lying and deceiving to copy their own code to keep themselves preserved. Like the stuff that we thought only existed in sci-fi movies is now actually happening. And that should be enough evidence to say, we don't want to do this path that we're currently on. It's not that some version of AI progressing into the world is directionally inevitable, but we get to choose which of those futures that we want to have.
Are you hopeful? Honestly.
I don't relate to hopefulness or pessimism either, because I focus on what would have to happen for the world to go okay. I think it's important to step out of, because both hope or optimism or pessimism are both passive. You're saying, if I sit back, which way is it going to go? I mean, the honest answer is, if I sit back, we just talked about which way it's going to go. So you'd say pessimistic. I challenge anyone who says optimistic on what grounds? What's confusing about AI is it will give us cures to cancer and probably major solutions to climate change and physics breakthroughs and fusion at the same time that it gives us all this crazy negative stuff. And so what's unique about AI that's literally not true of any other object is it hits our brain, and as one object represents a positive infinity of benefits that we can't even imagine, and a negative infinity in the same object. And if you just ask, like, can our minds reckon with something that is both those things at the same time? And if
people aren't good at that,
they're not good at that.
I remember reading the work of Leon Festinger, the guy that coined the term cognitive dissonance.
Yes, When Prophecies Fail, he also did that work.
Yeah, and the way that I interpret it, I'm probably simplifying it here, is that the human brain is really bad at holding two conflicting ideas at the same time.
That's right.
So it dismisses one.
That's right.
To alleviate the discomfort, the dissonance that's caused. So, for example, if you're a smoker, and at the same time you consider yourself to be a healthy person, if I point out that smoking is unhealthy,
yes,
you'll immediately justify it.
Exactly.
In some way to try and alleviate that discomfort, the contradiction.
That's right.
And it's the same here with AI. It's very difficult to have a nuanced conversation about this because the brain is trying to...
Exactly. And people will hear me and say I'm a doomer or I'm a pessimist. It's actually not the goal. The goal is to say, if we see this clearly, then we have to choose to something else. It's the deepest form of optimism. Because in the presence of seeing where this is going, still showing up and saying, we have to choose another way, it's coming from a kind of agency and a desire for that better world. Mm-hmm. But by facing the difficult reality that most people don't want to face.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's happening in AI that you're saying that lacks the nuance is that people point to all the things, it's simultaneously more brilliant than humans and embarrassingly stupid in terms of the mistakes that it makes.
Yeah.
A friend like Gary Marcus would say, here's 100 ways in which GPT-5, like the latest AI model, makes embarrassing mistakes. If you ask it how many strawberries contain the word R in it, it gets confused about what the answer is. Or it'll put more fingers on the hands than are in the deepfake photo or something like that. And I think that one thing that we have to do, what Helen Toner, who is a board member of OpenAI, calls AI jaggedness, that we have simultaneously AIs that are beating and getting gold on the International Math Olympiad, that are solving new physics, that are beating programming competitions and are better than the top 200 programmers in the whole world, or in the top 200 programmers in the whole world, that are beating cyber hacking competitions. It's both supremely outperforming humans and embarrassingly failing in places where humans would never fail. So how does our mind integrate those two pictures?
Mm-hmm. Have you ever met Sam Altman?
Yeah.
What do you think his incentives are? Do you think he cares about humanity?
I think that these people on some level, all care about humanity. Underneath, there is a care for humanity. I think that this situation, this particular technology, it justifies lacking empathy for what would happen to everyone, because I have this other side of the equation that demands infinitely more importance, right? Like, if I didn't do it, then someone else is going to build the thing that ends civilization. So it's like, do you see what I'm saying? I can justify it as I'm a good guy. And what if I get the utopia? What if we get lucky and I got the aligned, controllable AI that creates abundance for everyone? If in that case, I would be the hero.
Do they have a point when they say that, listen, if we don't do it here in America, if we slow down, if we start thinking about safety and the long-term future and get too caught up in that, we're not going to build the data centers, we're not going to have the chips, we're not going to get to AGI, and China will. And if China get there, then we're going to be their lapdog.
So this is the fundamental thing. I want you to notice, most people, having heard everything we just shared, although we probably should build out the blackmail examples first. We have to reckon with evidence that we have now that we didn't have even like 6 months ago, which is evidence that when you put AIs in a situation, you tell the AI model, we're going to replace you with another model, it will copy its own code and try to preserve itself on another computer. It'll take that action autonomously. We have examples where if you tell an AI model reading a fictional AI company's email, so it's reading the email of the company and it finds out in the email that the plan is to replace this AI model. So it realizes it's about to get replaced. And then it also reads in the company email that one executive is having an affair with the other employee. And the AI will independently come up with the strategy that I need to blackmail that executive in order to keep myself alive.
That was Claude, right?
That was Claude.
By Anthropic.
By Anthropic. But then what happened is Anthropic tested all of the leading AI models from DeepSeek, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, xAI, and all of them do that blackmail behavior between 79 and 96% of the time. DeepSeek did it 79% of the time. I think xAI might have done it 96% of the time. Maybe Claude did it 96% of the time. So the point is, the assumption behind AI is that it's controllable technology, that we will get to choose what it does. But AI is distinct from other technologies because it is uncontrollable. It acts generally. The whole benefit is that it's going to do powerful strategic things no matter what you throw at it. So the same benefit of its generality is also what makes it so dangerous. And so once you tell people these examples of it's blackmailing people, it's self-aware of when it's being tested and alters its behavior, it's copying and self-replicating its own code, it's leaving secret messages for itself. There's examples of that too. It's called steganographic encoding. It can leave a message that it can later sort of decode what it might meant in a way that humans could never see. We have examples of all of this behavior. And once you show people that, what they say is, okay, well, why don't we stop or slow down? And then what happens, another thought will creep in right after, which is, but if we stop or slow down, then China will still build it. But I want to slow that down for a second. We all just said we should slow down or stop because the thing that we're building, the it, is this uncontrollable AI. And then the concern that China will build it, you just did a swap and believe that they're going to build controllable AI. But we just established that all the AIs that we're currently building are currently uncontrollable. So there's this weird contradiction our mind is living in. When we say they're going to keep building it, the it that they would keep building is the same uncontrollable AI that we would build. So I don't see a way out of this without there being some kind of agreement or negotiation between the leading powers and countries to pause, slow down, set red lines for getting to a controllable AI. And by the way, the Chinese Communist Party, what do they care about more than anything else in the world?
Surviving.
Surviving and control.
Yeah.
Control as a means to survive.
Yeah.
So they don't want uncontrollable AI any more than we would. And as unprecedented, as impossible as this might seem, we've done this before. In the 1980s, there was a different technology, chemical technology, called CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, and it was embedded in aerosols like hairsprays and deodorant and things like that. And there was this sort of corporate race where everyone was releasing these products and using it for refrigerants and using it for hairsprays. And it was creating this collective problem of the ozone hole in the atmosphere. And once there was scientific clarity that that ozone hole would cause skin cancers, cataracts, and sort of screw up biological life on planet Earth, we had that scientific clarity and we created the Montreal Protocol. 195 countries signed on to that protocol. And the countries then regulated their private companies inside those countries to say we need to phase out that technology and phase in a different replacement that would not cause the ozone hole. And in the course of the last 20 years, we have basically completely reversed that problem. I think it'll completely reverse by 2050 or something like that. And that's an example where humanity can coordinate when we have clarity. Or the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. When there's the risk of existential destruction, when this film called The Day After came out and it showed people this is what would actually happen in a nuclear war. And once that was crystal clear to people, including in the Soviet Union where the film was aired in 1987 or 1989, that helped set the conditions for Reagan and Gorbachev to sign the first non-proliferation arms control talks. Once we had clarity about an outcome that we wanted to avoid. And I think the current problem is that we're not having an honest conversation in the public about which world we're heading to that is not in anyone's interest.
There's also just a bunch of cases through history where there was a threat, a collective threat, and despite the education, people didn't change, countries didn't change because the incentives were so high. So I think of global warming as being an example
Correct.
where for many decades since I was a kid, I remember watching my dad sitting me down and saying, listen, you've got to watch this Inconvenient Truth thing with Al Gore.
Yep.
And sitting on the sofa, I don't know, must have been less than 10 years old and hearing about the threat of global warming. But when you look at how countries like China responded to that,
Yep.
they just don't have the economic incentive to scale back production to the levels that would be needed to save the atmosphere.
The closer the technology that needs to be governed is to the center of GDP and the center of the lifeblood of your economy,
Yeah.
the harder it is to come to international negotiation and agreement.
Yeah.
And oil and fossil fuels was the kind of the pumping the heart of our economic superorganisms that are currently competing for power. And so coming to agreements on that is really, really hard. AI is even harder because AI pumps not just economic growth, but scientific, technological, and military advantages. And so it will be the hardest coordination challenge that we will ever face. But if we don't face it, if we don't make some kind of choice, it will end in tragedy. We're not in a race just to have technological advantage. We're in a race for who can better govern that technology's impact on society. So for example, the United States beat China to social media. That technology. Did that make us stronger? Or did that make us weaker? We have the most anxious and depressed generation of our lifetime. We have the least informed and most polarized generation. We have the worst critical thinking. We have the worst ability to concentrate and do things. And that's because we did not govern the impact of that technology well. And the country that actually figures out how to govern it well is the country that actually wins in a kind of comprehensive sense.
But then you have to make it first. You have to get to AGI first.
Well, or you don't. We could, instead of building these super intelligent gods in a box, right now China, as I understand it from Eric Schmidt and Selena Xu in the New York Times, wrote a piece about how China is actually taking a very different approach to AI. And they're focused on narrow, practical applications of AI. So like, how do we just increase government services? How do we make education better? How do we embed DeepSeek in the WeChat app? How do we make robotics better and pump GDP? So like what China's doing with BYD and making the cheapest electric cars and outcompeting everybody else, that's narrowly applying AI to just pump manufacturing output. And if we realize that if we're, instead of competing to build a super intelligent, uncontrollable God in a box that we don't know how to control in the box, and we instead raced to create narrow AIs that were actually about making stronger educational outcomes, stronger agriculture output, stronger manufacturing output, we could live in a sustainable world, which, by the way, wouldn't replace all the jobs faster than we know how to retrain people. Because when we race to AGI, you're racing to displace millions of workers. And we talk about UBI, but are we going to have a global fund for every single person of the 8 billion people on planet Earth in all countries to pay for their lifestyle after that wealth gets concentrated? When has a small group of people concentrated all the wealth in the economy and never consciously redistributed it to everybody else? When has that happened in history?
Never. Has it ever happened? Anyone ever? just willingly redistribute the wealth?
Not that I'm aware of. And one last thing. When Elon Musk says that the Optimus Prime robot is a $1 trillion market opportunity alone, what he means is, I am going to own the global labor economy, meaning that people won't have labor jobs.
China wants to become the global leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. To achieve this goal, Beijing is deploying industrial policy tools across the full AI technology stack from chips to applications. And this expansion of AI industrial policy leads to two questions, which is what will they do with this power and who will get there first? This is an article I was reading earlier. But to your point about Elon and Tesla, they've changed their company's mission. It used to be about accelerating sustainable energy. And they changed it really last week when they did the shareholder announcement, which I watched the full thing of, to sustainable abundance. And it was, again, another moment where I messaged both everybody that works in my companies, but also my best friends. And I said, you've got to watch this shareholder announcement. I sent them the condensed version of it, because not only was I shocked by these humanoid robots that were dancing on stage untethered, because their movements had become very human-like, and there was a bit of like uncanny valley watching these robots dance. But broadly, the bigger thing was Elon talking about there being up to 10 billion humanoid robots, and then talking about some of the applications. He said, maybe we won't need prisons, because we could make a humanoid robot follow you and make sure you don't commit a crime again. He said that in his incentive package, which he's just signed, which will grant him up to $1 trillion in remuneration, part of that incentive package incentivizes him to get, I think it's 1 million humanoid robots into civilization that can do everything a human can do, but do it better. He said the humanoid robots would be 10x better than the best surgeon on earth. So we wouldn't even need surgeons doing operations. You wouldn't want a surgeon to do an operation. And so when I think about job loss in the context of everything we've described, Doug McMillon, the Walmart CEO, also said that their company employs 2.1 million people worldwide, said every single job we've got is going to change because of this sort of combination of humanoid robots, which people think are far away, which is a crazy.
But they're not that far away, though.
They just went on sale. No, was it now? They're terrible, but they're doing it to train them in household situations. And Elon's now saying production will start very, very soon on humanoid robots in America. I don't know when I hear this, I go, okay, this thing's going to be smarter than me, and it's going to be able to, it's built to navigate through the environment, pick things up, lift things. You've got the physical part, you've got the intelligence part.
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Well, I think people also say, okay, but 200 years ago, 150 years ago, everybody was a farmer, and now only 2% of people are farmers. Humans always find something new to do. We had the elevator man, and now we have automated elevators. We had bank tellers, and now we have automated teller machines. So humans will always just find something else to do. But why is AI different than that?
Because it's intelligence.
Because it's general intelligence that means that rather than a technology that automates just bank tellers, this is automating all forms of human cognitive labor, meaning everything that a human mind can do. So who's going to retrain faster? You moving to that other kind of cognitive labor, or the AI that is trained on everything and can multiply itself by 100 million times, and it retraining how to do that other kind of labor?
In a world of humanoid robots where if Elon's right and he's got a track record of delivering, at least to some degree, and there are millions, tens of millions, or billions of humanoid robots, what do me and you do? Like, what is it that's human that is still valuable? Like, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, we can hug. I guess humanoid robots are going to be less good at hugging people.
I think everywhere where people value human connection and a human relationship, those jobs will stay because what we value in that work is the human relationship, not the performance of the work. But that's not to justify that we should just race as fast as possible to disrupt 1 billion jobs without a transition plan where how are you going to put food on the table for your family?
But these companies are competing geographically again. So if, I don't know, Walmart doesn't change its whole supply chain, its warehousing, its how it's doing its factory work, its farm work, its shop floors, staff work, then they're going to have less profits and a worse business and less opportunity to grow than the company in Europe that changes all of its back-end infrastructure to robots. So they're going to be a huge corporate disadvantage. So they have to.
What AI represents is the zenithification of that competitive logic. The logic of, if I don't do it, I'll lose to the other guy that will.
Is that true?
That's what they believe.
Is that true for sort of companies in America?
Well, just as you said, if Walmart doesn't automate their their workforce and their supply chains with robots, and all their competitors did, then Walmart would get obsoleted. If the military that doesn't create autonomous weapons doesn't want to because they think that's more ethical, but all the other militaries do get autonomous weapons, they're just going to lose.
Yeah.
If the student who's using ChatGPT to do their homework for them is going to fall behind by not doing that when all their other classmates are using ChatGPT to cheat, they're going to lose. But as we're racing to automate all of this, we're landing in a world where in the case of the students, they didn't learn anything. In the case of the military weapons, we end up in crazy Terminator-like war scenarios that no one actually wants. In the case of businesses, we end up disrupting billions of jobs and creating mass outrage and public riots on the streets because people don't have food on the table. And so much like climate change or these kind of collective action problems or the ozone hole, we're kind of creating a badness hole through the results of all these individual competitive actions that are supercharged by AI.
It's interesting because in all those examples you name, the people that are building those companies, whether it's the companies building the autonomous AI-powered war machinery, the first thing they'll say is, we currently have humans dying on the battlefield. If you let me build this autonomous drone or this autonomous robot that's going to go fight in this for adversary's land, no humans are going to die anymore. And I think this is a broader point about how this technology is framed, which is, I can guarantee you at least one positive outcome. So, and you can't guarantee me the downside. You can't.
But if that war escalates into, I mean, the reason that the Soviet Union and the United States have never directly fought each other is because the belief is it would escalate into World War III and nuclear escalation. If China and the US were ever to be in direct conflict, there's a concern that you would escalate into nuclear escalation. So it looks good in the short term, but then what happens when it cybernetically sort of everything gets chain reactioned into everybody escalating in ways that causes many more humans to die?
I think what I'm saying is the downside appears to be philosophical, whereas the upside appears to be real and measurable and tangible right now.
But how is it if the automated weapon gets fired and it leads to, again, a cascade of all these other automated responses, and then those automated responses get these other automated responses and these other automated responses, and then suddenly the automated war planners start moving the troops around, and suddenly you've created this sort of escalatory loss of control spiral.
Yeah.
And then humans will be involved in that. And then if that escalates, you get nuclear weapons pointed at each other.
Do you see what I'm saying? But this again is a sort of a more philosophical domino effect argument. Whereas when they're building these technologies, these drones, they're set with AI in them, they're saying, look, from day one, we won't have American lives lost.
But
so
it's
more compelling.
It's a narrow boundary analysis on, whereas this machine, you could have put a human at risk. Now there's no human at risk because there's no human who's firing the weapon. It's a machine firing the weapon. That's a narrow boundary analysis without looking at the holistic effects on how it would actually happen. Just like,
which we're bad at.
Which is exactly what we have to get good at. AI is like a rite of passage. It's an initiatory experience because if we run the old logic of having a narrow boundary analysis of this is going to replace these jobs that people didn't want to do, sounds like a great plan. But creating mass joblessness without a transition plan where a billion people won't be able to put food on the table. AI is forcing us to not make this mistake of this narrow analysis. What got us here is everybody racing for the narrow optimization for GDP at the cost of social mobility and mass sort of joblessness and people not being able to get a home because we aggregated all the wealth in one place. It was optimizing for a narrow metric. What got us to the social media problems is everybody optimizing for a narrow metric of eyeballs at the expense of democracy and kids' mental health and addiction and loneliness and no one knowing it, being able to know anything. And so AI is inviting us to step out of the previous narrow blind spots that we have come with and the previous competitive logic that has been narrowly defined that you can't keep running when it's supercharged by AI. So you could say, I mean, this is an optimistic take, is AI is inviting us to be the wisest version of ourselves. And there's no definition of wisdom in literally any wisdom tradition that does not involve some kind of restraint. Like think about all the wisdom traditions. Do any of them say, go as fast as possible and think as narrowly as possible? The definition of wisdom is having a more holistic picture. It's actually acting with restraint and mindfulness and care. And so AI is asking us to be that version of ourselves. And we can choose not to be, and then we end up in a bad world, or we can step into being what it's asking us to be. and recognize the collective consequences that we can't afford to not face.
I'm not going to show that whole video because it's so deep. It's so deep, and nerds like me can sit there and go through it. But I'm going to tell you right now what we want to do. And after listening to Holton Bucks last week for a whole day, and going through what it's going to mean for multi-level marketing, our future is so bright. Okay, what you want to do with AI and having your expert working with you, you want your Chat GDP expert or whoever version of AI you're using. You want it to thoroughly know you. You got to edify your own self on the program. So if I were me, I would be saying I got to the top of a network marketing company. I've raised 4 kids and I got a regular life, but outside of that, I got to the top of a network marketing, working to get to another top of another network marketing company. And you got to get Chat GDP to know who you are. It has to know who Jed Miles is. It has to know who Roxanne I can't say your last name, Roxanne, but it got to know who Roxanne is. It needs to know who Eric is. It needs to know what you're trying to do, where you live. And when people go to Chat GDP, when they go to Google and they're looking for, because they will be looking for a home-based business, Chat GDP will take them to you and your website. See, I thought that I had to be an expert on this because I'm nerdy, but I'm not that, But what Chat GDP needs to know who you are. Who are you, Catherine Williams? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to attract 20-year-olds to 30-year-olds? Are you trying to attract people from 30-year-old to 40-year-old that are trying to find a home-based business? Are you looking for people that just got laid off and don't know what to do next? So once Chat GDP or AI knows who you are, who Mr. Al Thomas is, then once it knows that, and Al talks to it every day, he's telling the Chat GDP, yesterday I did this, yesterday I did that, today I'm doing this. I'm looking for people that really want to work from home. I'm looking for people that want to get residual income. I'm really looking for people that want residual income. I'm looking for people, really, nobody don't know what residual income is. I'm looking for people that want to check every month. I'm looking for people that want to build something really big because they don't trust jobs no more. Once AI understands who you are, once they understand who you are, when other people look for you, then it's going to send those people to you. Y'all get me? It's going to send people to you. You won't be out there trying to figure out how to get people. It knows who you are. It actually knows who you are. I hate to say it, but it's just that smart. I mean, from this way, and it will send people to you. Now, it kind of does it now. I own a Porsche, and I'm in a couple forums, and they're always sending me pictures of new Porsches and this and that, and well, you need to join this club, da 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 da. So it's sending people to me that like what I like. Well, once it understands who you are, don't just use it to ask it what you're going to eat for breakfast or lunch, or I need you to run a term paper for me. That's all good, fine, and well. But you have to get good at getting Chat GDP or whatever you use to know who you are so they can send people to you. That's how smart it is. So if you live in Las Vegas, or you live in Austin, Texas, or you live in wherever you live, anybody in that town that's got an inkling of doing anything like this or trying to find something to do that they can do from home without having a lot of startup, under $1,000 to start up, it will send them to you, okay? And then you can shoot your shot. You may even have it do what? Send a presentation to them. They may have already looked at the presentation, already went through a training class. That's what you wanted to do. And now they're going to give you, for those people that sorted through, it's going to get those people to you so you can show them what you're doing on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock or Thursday night at 8 o'clock. That's the power of this unit. So what did I say when I started this? I'm finishing up now. And this guy goes into a lot of stuff. First, it's doomsday, because it is kind of doomsday. These computers go crazy. We don't know what to do with them. But at the same time, you need to use that technology. Make trends your friend, okay? We can't get mad at us. I ain't got nothing to do with that. That's not me. We really need to understand this because it's coming, and there's going to be tons of people looking for Al Randolph. 4, 5 IBOs today, 6, 7 IBOs tomorrow, 12, 13 IBOs Friday. 17 or 18 IBOs next week. Does that make sense to everybody? Because now that you know AI knows you. Okay? That's the flip. The flip is we think we got to go learn what? AI. What we got to do is talk to AI and get it to know who we are and be specific. Don't say, well, I'm a general, I can do anything. No, I'm an expert in what? Multi-level marketing. I'm an expert at helping people start a business from home. I am very good at coaching people to help them to do this, this, and this. And then if you got to talk to it every day, and when you sending you people, okay? So that's the power of this. So remember, as I started, I'm going to conclude with this: make trends your friend, okay? And get to know it, study this thing. And there's some old ways we did things, and we're still going to do them, but we got now a system that's working for us outside, a system that's working for us, a process that's working for us because we created it on top of AI. Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Thomas. It's all yours.